In life, the Jackal's name was Ryan, and he was a very violent and sadistic individual. He was eventually locked up in an asylum for his crimes, where he eventually died due to the asylum burning down. The Angry Princess. Her name in life was Dana, and she was a very beautiful young woman, but she never saw herself that way. After a botched facial surgery that she performed on herself, she took her own life. The Pilgrimess was a woman named Isabella who was a victim of the Salem witch trials. She was not supernatural in any way. She did not perform any witchcraft. However, when they tried to burn her, it did not work. Instead, they left her to rot in her restraints to starve. The Great Child and the Dire Mother. The mother's name was Margaret, and she was a little person who was working at her local circus. She was treated horribly there, and she was even assaulted, which led to her son being born. The son's name was Harold, and he ended up watching all of this harassment the mother was experiencing at the circus. A group of individuals eventually killed the mother, and Harold reacted by murdering them all with an axe. He, in turn, was murdered by an angry mob. The Torn Prince. In life, his name was Royce, and he was a high school baseball star in the 1950s. He passed away in a drag racing accident gone wrong. It seems like somebody tampered with his brakes. The Juggernaut is one of the most dangerous of all 13 ghosts. In life, he was a serial killer named Horace that would lure victims back to his junkyard. He would tear them apart limb by limb with his own bare hands, and he would feed parts of these victims to his dogs. I can't show you a picture of this ghost for obvious reasons, but the torso is one of my favorites. His name was Jimmy, and he was a big gambler with the mob, and one day things did not go his way, so he was cut up into little pieces, saran wrapped, and dumped into the ocean. His ghost is very striking because in the film he is literally just a torso wrapped in plastic that is crawling around. Insane visual. The Firstborn Son. His name was Billy, and when he was a little boy, he used to play games with kids in his neighborhood. One day, while they were supposed to be play fighting, the neighborhood boy actually shot him in the head with a metal-tipped arrow. It seems like the boy didn't know it was real. The Hammer. His name was George, and he used to work as a blacksmith before he was racially profiled by a white man. George was accused of theft, and the white man ended up killing George's entire family. This, of course, enraged George, and he ended up taking his hammer and murdering the people who murdered his family. However, the townspeople still blamed George for this incident and ended up killing him by driving railroad spikes through his skin. The Withered Lover. Her name was Jean, and she was a victim of a house fire. She was the only one in her entire family who did not make it out. She is well loved and dearly missed by those in her family. Then we have the Bound Woman. She was a girl named Susan who was attending her senior prom. However, her boyfriend saw her cheating on him with another boy and then, in an act of revenge, strangled her and killed the boy that she was cheating with. The idea behind the film 13 Ghosts is that there is a ritual happening that involves the Black Zodiac. It's a ritual that's powered by a machine that feeds on the souls of these specific ghosts that are used to power the machine, and they give the user infernal powers. It's a very out there movie, but it's so interesting and so fun, so much lore. Mwah, chef's kiss.
What would you do if you saw a man wandering around eating a severed human leg? It was the 22nd of March 2024 in Kern County, California. At roughly 8 a.m. that day, a member of the public was tragically hit by an oncoming train. This was at the Amtrak train station in Wasco. The incident itself was obviously shocking enough, with a pedestrian losing their life after being hit by the train. However, things would then take an even darker turn than anyone could imagine. The force of the train hitting the individual is said to have been so severe that it severed their leg. A 27-year-old man named Rosendo Tellez then allegedly removed the leg from the scene. Eyewitnesses reported seeing him wandering around the local area after the incident, carrying the leg. Witnesses saw him carrying the severed leg around, biting it and shockingly eating it. A horrific video of the incident has been circulating on social media. Thankfully, the man was tracked down and was arrested on charges of removal of human remains from other than a cemetery. He was also charged with violating his probation. He is scheduled to be appearing in court very soon.
The exotic pet owner that released 50 of his wild animals into the public before taking his own life. This is the worst example of wild pet ownership and widely known as the Zanesville Massacre. Terry Thompson was a lifelong collector of exotic pets. He was even featured on a TV show called Wild Kingdom and even provided a baby lion for a photo shoot with supermodel Heidi Klum. It was said that wild animals covered the entirety of Terry's property. There were tigers in the garage, monkeys in the basement, cougars in the bedroom, and so forth. In the years leading up to the tragic Zanesville massacre, Terry was struggling. Recently out of prison, heavily in debt, and his wife had just left him. So that takes us to October 18th, 2011. Terry released 50 of his wild animals before unaliving himself. His body was then partially eaten by his own pets. And then the 911 calls started to quickly come in. There were dozens of sightings of these dangerous wild animals all over town. Just try to imagine this for a second. You're like sitting on your front porch and a lion just walks through your front yard, or you're trying to drive down the street and there's a grizzly bear on one side of you and a wolf on the other.
911. Is this a hoax or is there truly?
No, it's true. And if you see anything, stay indoors.
Remain indoors. Don't try to approach them.
On the interstate, 2 more African lions. One is wounded roaming the property.
It's complete chaos out there.
And this is all happening in like a super small town in Ohio. These small town deputies aren't equipped for this, but now they're faced with making this impossible decision that would end up traumatizing a lot of them. Many of them weren't able to sleep for weeks afterwards. They felt that their only option was to unalive these beautiful wild animals so that they wouldn't hurt anybody. In total, these police officers shot and unalived, I wrote it down so I wouldn't get it wrong, 18 tigers, 6 black bears, 2 grizzly bears, 17 lions, 3 cougars, 2 wolves, and 1 baboon. 1 monkey was never found. It was assumed that another one of the animals, maybe like a lion, had eaten it, but it was never confirmed. The dead bodies of all these animals were then piled up in preparation to bury them. There's a really, really disturbing, sad photo of all of the animals' bodies piled up online. Obviously, I'm not going to show that because it's really disturbing. And then all of the animals were buried on Terry's property, which I actually have a lot of issue with, and I don't see a lot of people bring this up. Terry was obviously a really, really bad exotic pet owner, and for that to be their final resting place really doesn't sit well with me. What happened to the wild animals in Zanesville, Ohio ended up making international news. This was known worldwide, and there was a lot of backlash on the police officers' choice to end the lives of the animals that day. Obviously, what happened to the animals that day was wrong, and no one wanted them to be hurt than their owner, Terry. No humans were even injured that day, which I do think is a miracle, because these were wild animals that were being neglected, malnourished, mistreated by their owner, Terry. These were animals that had just been released into an area they were not familiar with. They were starving, they were aggressive, and they were terrified. The closest zoo that had enough tranquilizers for all of them was over an hour away, and that's not even like preparing for all of this and like enough vehicles to transport these animals as well. So by then, who knows what could have happened. My heart absolutely breaks for every animal whose life was stolen from them that day in Zanesville, Ohio. But I don't blame the small town police officers that weren't trained to handle something like that. I blame their owner, Terry Thompson, because of his cruel, irresponsible, selfish decision that was frankly evil, letting those animals go because he 100% knew what was going to happen to them. But I also blame the fact that at this time in Ohio, there were 0 laws against keeping wild animals as pets. Of course, after all of this happened, they were pretty much forced to ban exotic pet ownership in Ohio. If only every state in the United States and other places around the world would follow suit, it shouldn't take lives lost for people to open their eyes up that keeping wild, dangerous, exotic pets is not only dangerous, irresponsible, but just flat out wrong to do, and it's cruel for the animal as well. These are animals that should be in the wild, not someone's backyard. 48 animals, beautiful wild animals, lost their lives on October 18th, 2011 in Zanesville, Ohio, when they should have never been in Ohio in the first place. If you're still enjoying the videos we've been doing lately, bringing awareness to how dangerous keeping wild animals as pets is, let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, let me know if you've ever heard of this story before. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
This is part 2 on the case of 13-year-old Madeline Soto. So at one point during the investigation, police had interviewed Stefan and they actually asked him for his cell phone. Stefan agreed to this, and before handing his cell phone over, he actually told police, "Oops, I performed a factory reset on my phone." Police were like, "That's odd, why would you do that?" But regardless of that, they were still able to uncover everything that was on his phone. And when they started digging through there, they found a handful, not even a handful, like hundreds and hundreds of images with child porn. These videos and images of the CP were actually taken inside the Soto home. And they knew that Stefan was the adult in these videos due to an identifying mark on his private area. As for the child in the videos, it's believed that the child is 13-year-old Madeline Soto. The clothes that the child was wearing in these videos and photos were actually found inside Madeline's room. So after discovering all of that, Stefan was arrested on charges of battery and possessing CP material. The sheriff held a press conference and he stated that they no longer believed that Madeline was alive and that they were now looking for her body. The reason they believe this is because surveillance footage actually proved that Stefan never dropped Madeline off at school like he claims. Surveillance footage showed Stefan throwing Madeline's backpack and her school laptop into a dumpster around their apartment complex at 7:35 in the morning. Then there's also surveillance footage showing him coming back to their apartment complex with Madeline in the car, and detectives believe that at that point Madeline was already dead. So yeah, there's no way that he dropped her off at school between 8:25 and 8:40 in the morning like he claims, when there's literally surveillance footage showing him throwing away her backpack and with Madeline's body in the car. Just hours after this press conference was held, Madeline's body was found in a wooded area around 45 minutes away from her home. And they actually got this lead from a tip. Someone called in and said that they believe that they saw Stefan Stearns on Monday pulled over on the side of the road changing a flat tire. Again, Stefan claims that he was at home after dropping Madeline off at school, but now there's a witness that places him on the side of the road near where Madeline's body was eventually found. There was a vigil held for Madeline and everyone was just absolutely heartbroken over what happened to her. Everyone was just so upset that this happened after her 13th birthday and that she was going through so much abuse with Stefan. The community was a little bit upset that Stefan was charged with all of these other things, but that he wasn't charged with the death of Madeline. Now, detectives have come out and stated that they are working so hard on this case and that these type of things take time, so that's why they haven't charged Stefan with murder yet. What was even more disturbing is that on March 12th, 60 new charges were filed against Stefan Stearns, again related to CP. These new charges are so disturbing, but one of them include essaying a child under 12 years old. With this, detectives believe that Stefan could have been abusing Madeline since she was 8 years old. As of now, Stefan continues to remain behind bars, and he has a pre-trial date in April, and then his trial is set to start in May. What Stefan did is absolutely disgusting, and it's terrible that he was on there crying and begging for Madeline's safe return when he knew that she wasn't coming back. A lot of people wonder if Jennifer knew about the abuse, but detectives have not charged her with anything, and they also claim that she's being very cooperative. My heart breaks for Madeline, and I just truly hope that she does receive justice.
I didn't ask her this, so I think that it's time to show who I am now.
December 23rd, 2022, one day before her birthday, 22-year-old Jacqueline Durand was approaching the house she had been hired to dog sit at when she wasn't taking classes at the University of Texas in Dallas. A sign the homeowners had above the entrance would give an ominous warning, one that would go unnoticed. And so Jacqueline walked right into what would become a living nightmare. Immediately after entering the front glass door, and before she could even close the actual second front door, the two dogs in the home, a German Shepherd named Lucy and a pit bull named Bender, rushed directly towards Jacqueline, violently bringing her down to the ground, causing her to drop her cell phone, and then dragged her from the front door all the way into the kitchen. At this point, the two large dogs pinned her down and mauled her face, ripping off her ears, nose, cheeks, and lips to the bone. These dogs were actually so violent and bloodthirsty that they ripped apart and tore off all the articles of clothing that Jacqueline was wearing. Now, fortunately, because Jacqueline was not able to actually close that second front door, it triggered a home security alarm, and so eventually local police showed up to the property, as seen in this footage.
I see her feet right there.
First responder body camera video shows the two dogs who attacked her, holding the police at bay.
Once police made their way inside, Jacqueline was ultimately rushed to a nearby hospital and underwent multiple operations. The first one, which was an emergency surgery, lasted 7 hours, and she had to be resuscitated on the operation table multiple times. Now, the couple that owned these two dogs, Ashley Joe Bishop and Avery Bishop, offered no help and no financial assistance to her whatsoever. Since this incident, Jacqueline acquired a lawyer, and this couple has been served a lawsuit. Also, the two dogs involved in this attack were ultimately ordered by a judge to be euthanized. Jacqueline says to the public she does not want to be seen as a victim and only an example to other dog owners to know your dogs, take more precaution, and just be careful.
Nikocado Avocado is currently going through a crazy transition. So after uploading that bone-chilling video that let us know that everything he's done has been an act, everyone assumed Nikocado Avocado was about to completely change. Instead, he just completely vanished from the internet. After being gone for a few months, he came back full force. And for quite a while, nothing changed. But recently, he took another leave from the internet, and when he came back, he had lost over 89 pounds. In his videos, you could see it pretty clearly, and he no longer had that over-the-top style of entertainment that he had become known for. He seemed like he was finally just being his true self. Recently, he has gained some of the weight back, but said he is on this journey for the long haul. And if you watch his videos, you can tell he seems like a completely different person. Personally, I am hoping that one day he disappears again and comes back looking just like this. Guys, thanks for watching. As always, do not forget to like and follow, and go check out the YT because I have a lot of new videos coming.
This is the new One Punch Man villain, Empty Void, and that's the universe. The new One Punch Man chapter just came out. Empty Void is on Demon Time. Flashy Flash and Speed of Sound Sonic bum rush this man, and he enters a different space. As you can see, this is the area that he accesses, and he sees the entire multiverse. This is the universe that Flashy Flash, Speed of Sound Sonic, the normal One Punch Man universe is contained within, along with what seems to be thousands of other universes. Multiverse confirmed. He inspects the one universe, does some ninja moves on it, pulls out his blade, slashes the bubble which the universe is contained within, literally creates a vision of him bisecting Speed of Sound Sonic, which is obviously a vision that God is projecting to Flashy Flash. Flash arrives to the scene, literally snuffs this man right in the face and forces him to retreat. But I think it's about time we stop saying that One Punch Man characters cap at multi-solar system to galaxy level, and even if Empty Void is only in the same tier as Cosmic Gato, and Cosmic Gato only showed those feats, that only further upscales Empty Void. Or the power cliffing has really just gotten this immense, but either way, this chapter was peak.
The teacher that married her second grade student. Mary Kay Letourneau was a married mother of four when she first met Billy Furlow. She was a teacher at Sherwood Elementary School, and Billy was an 8-year-old in her second grade class. All of Mary Kay's students loved her because she was pretty and sweet and blonde. Mary Kay said that since the moment she met Billy, remember when he was only 8 years old, she knew that he was special and that they kept in contact over the years. Then in 1995, Billy was Mary Kay's student once again. Mrs. Letourneau was 34 years old now and teaching 6th grade. Billy was 12 years old now and in her 6th grade class. Something that I don't think is brought up enough is that Billy was only a year older than Mary Kay's oldest son. Billy was Mary Kay's favorite student. She would invite him over all the time throughout the school year to hang out with her family and play with her kids. They were spending a lot of time together, and Billy was developing quite a serious crush on his teacher. Mary Kay would say that he came on to her first and was pursuing her very hard. But I need to make something very, very clear, and I cannot stress this enough. It is normal for a child to have a crush on their teacher. It is not normal, and it's disgusting for those feelings to be reciprocated. And as the adult in the situation, Mary Kay should have known what was appropriate and put an end to it. But just to further prove how much of a 12-year-old boy Billy was at this point, he had a $20 bet with another student that he could make Mrs. Letourneau sleep with him. And when 6th grade let out for the summer, Mary Kay started statutory essaying Billy. And by the end of summer, Mary Kay was pregnant with Billy's child. I just cannot stress this enough to you guys. She's almost 35 and he is 12 years old. And that she's married already with 4 kids, one of whom is extremely close in age to Billy. Well, Mary Kay's husband finds out about what's happening, and one of his relatives actually called and reported the abuse, and Mary Kay was arrested for the first time. Mary Kay, who is very pregnant by now, said that she didn't know that what she was doing was a felony. And Billy continued to support her throughout the entire trial. He said that he was not a victim, what they did was completely consensual, and that they were in love. Mary Kay's husband was awarded a divorce and also full custody of their children, and I don't know if she ever saw her first 4 children ever again. Mary Kay gave birth to her and Billy's first daughter while awaiting sentencing and was sentenced to about 80 days in prison. Following Mary Kay's release, she was given a no contact order, so she was unable to have any contact of any minor, which included all of her children and Billy. But of course, she quickly broke that no contact order. Her and Billy started seeing each other pretty much almost immediately, but they were quickly caught and she was arrested again. This time she was put on the registered SA offender list. But by the time that she was caught, she was already pregnant with Billy's second child. This time around, she was sentenced to over 7 years in prison and gave birth to her and Billy's second daughter while in jail. Both of those babies were put in the custody of Billy's mom, by the way. By the time that Mary Kay was released the second time, Billy was 21 years old and he filed to have the no contact order overturned, which was granted by a judge. So him and Mary Kay got married then. He was 22 years old and Mary Kay was 43. They were married for about 12 years before Billy filed for a legal separation, but the two were never able to actually get legally divorced because Mary Kay got really sick and ended up passing away in 2020 at the age of 58 years old. Since Mary Kay's passing, Billy has done a lot of TV interviews and it seems like he's finally come to terms with the fact that he was a victim. He says quite often that if he was attracted to a 12-year-old while he was in his 30s, he would seek professional help and that would be extremely disturbing. He also says that if either of his daughters ever said that they were dating their teacher, that he would report it and it would be gross. I really feel for Billy. I mean, Mary Kay, through the abuse, ruined his teenage years, his 20s, his 30s, really all the best years of his life. I mean, he was a father 2 times over by the age of 14. That is some serious trauma and I hope he has a lot of support. As for Mary Kay, I think that she is a narcissist who became fixated on a victim and refused to let go. It also seems like she convinced herself that the two were star-crossed lovers and that she was doing nothing wrong. She actually never ever admitted to doing anything wrong because they were in love. Up until the day she died, she put all the blame on Billy, who, remember, was only 8 years old by the time they met. And she honestly had a lot of supporters who believed her when she said that the two were soulmates, which is so freaky and disgusting. And you know, if the genders were reversed, it would be a completely different story. Well, that's all I have today. I know this was long. You guys have been asking me for some longer videos, so I decided to give it a shot. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. But if you did watch to the end, thank you so much. Leave a pink heart in the comments so I know that you saw this.